Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session of LitFestx. We are joined with Sayantan Ghosh, who is an editor at Drupa Publication, which is a major publishing house in India. And he was born in Kolkata and he now lives in Delhi. He's recently written a book called Who Needs Cupid? Sayantan, welcome to LitFestx.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, the our subject today is digital love.
Yeah.
I think you've written a lot about love in the era of technology, or rather in the digital era. And
Yeah.
so, tell us a little bit about what your own experiences and observations have been in this space.
The book actually came from mostly my observations rather than experiences. I'll be honest, because although it's ironic that the session is called Digital Love, but I keep saying that how I'm actually digitally quite handicapped, and people who know me, my friends and my parents, they're aware of it. So the book actually came out of the factor that it has become such an integral part, uh, uh, the digitization of everything, including relationships. And I actually saw myself falling behind. So the book, the essays that I wrote in the book are mostly observations. I play very little part in the book.
Okay, and
Yeah.
if you're saying you're technologically or rather digitally handicapped,
Yeah.
clearly there's a lot of movement and action going on in the matchmaking, dating, or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or if I can call it the finding love in cybersphere industry. And what are your
Yeah.
views
Yeah.
there?
uh, I had my reservations. I did have my reservations, like because, and I think part of it also came because I was not very proficient with technology, or like I use Facebook. Initially, I was very resistant to even that, but now I use it regularly. But and a little bit of Twitter for the past 1 year, but that's about it. I really don't know about most of the things that are there, but. Uh, I think it became important because with time, where would people meet otherwise? You resist something, but it's creating a space which I began to understand. And even during the process of this book too, I spoke to people, and some friends, some colleagues, people I know, people I spoke on the even online. I asked them questions, and it has this digital space, including the app that actually is a part of the book, which is Truly Madly, which actually was collaborated on the book. They have created a space where people meet. Now, whether or not that works out into something, what people are looking forward to or looking for in that space is a personal choice. But I understand the relevance of it now. That I
Right.
can tell you.
you know, has do you think that you know the kind of humor you used in this
Mhm.
book, was it a deliberate choice, or you wanted to, because you wanted to appeal to a younger generation, or what was the whole deal? Because clearly it's a book around finding love,
Yeah.
even so digitally. But
Yeah.
so tell us about that.
Uh, yeah, although I'd like to say that the book doesn't really propagate just finding love digitally. It talks about a process that what all can come your way, and if you're noticing, and if you're welcoming of the experiences, that it may just work for you. It's not necessarily that it'll work, but it may just. Uh, uh, but yeah, what was your question again? What was the question?
No, in terms of the kind of humor you used in the book.
The humor, yeah. It was deliberate, but it's also a part of how I am in real life, because I find most things funny, and relationships are a huge area which is really funny, because things go wrong, and things and they go out of control, and if you have a vantage point of view, you find it funny. And I've seen a lot of people going through a lot of difficult times, who are in relationships, including friends, and even older people. And I've managed to embarrass myself in such situations often by uh, uh, um, saying things which are inappropriate. but I can't help but see the humor in things, because I also think, because it's when I was growing up, when I was in school, and I still hadn't formed any perceptions about these things. I was still in my formative years. I was looking at relationships as mostly like a board game, where people are playing a board game. And I used to play a lot of board games, and I was terrible at it. I was terrible at board games because, when you're playing with three people or four people, you have to constantly keep in mind what the others are thinking, and you have to, be on your toes and be a step ahead. And 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 then when I started seeing somebody, I realized it's pretty similar, that thing. You have to keep yourself updated, or you are falling behind constantly. And like in board games, I found the only way I managed to survive those board games is by cheating. And when I observed other people around me, I saw a lot of people manage relationships the same way.
So as as more and more people use technology either to find a new relationship partner or even in an existing
Hmm.
relationship to communicate with each other, you know,
Hmm.
from your
Yeah.
observations and your experience a little bit, you know, is it all positive? Are you seeing, negative aspects to it? Where is this going?
Uh, I can't help but see the negative aspect of it. I'm genuinely a pretty pessimistic person by nature. I've always been pretty pessimistic, and especially about love. But there are, of course, negative connotations, because uh, I, I think urban loneliness is a huge part of why this kind of a space has become so relevant. Because people like or a little older, they're too busy making a life for themselves, and for no fault of theirs. It's just a part of they're part of a system which entails them to do that. And there is hardly any scope uh, to reinvent their lives, and look outside for something. In like they show in bad cinema, your job and go for a holiday for a month, and you meet someone in Europe. That only happens in films. That doesn't really happen in real life, especially for middle class people like us. So uh, so the loneliness as a result, because how else do you find people? How else do you meet people? I think that makes people reach out in this kind of a space. And often you are meeting and no idea about. You have which can be an interesting thing, but it can also be dangerous in a lot of cases. Like there's this terrific documentary which came out a few years ago called Catfish, which I think became a show later. But I have not seen the show, but I saw the documentary, which was a spectacular and terrifying documentary about this boy, this man, a young man who meets a girl online, and they start chatting, and they form a relationship over emails and chats and photographs over a period of a few months. And she keeps sending him photographs of her friends, her family, herself, and she's beautiful, and is instantly attracted to her. And then he starts suspecting, because her stories done little things in her stories don't add up, and he starts suspecting her. And so what he does is he takes a friend of his and he follows her house and tries to find her out. And she turns out to be a completely different person, a bored housewife. And the documentary actually tracks that journey. And that woman has not she's not a she's she's not somebody who means any evil. She doesn't mean any harm. It's just that she needed to bring herself out of this, her own real reality. So she used a fake identity to befriend somebody who she found interesting, who otherwise she thought wouldn't be interested in her. So which is a scary phenomenon, but I think it's a part of our lives now.
You know, since you mentioned the negative aspect as well, have you
Mhm.
have you wondered, for example, now you've got all these dating apps and matchmaking apps. Um
Mhm.
I remember there was a time where, and even now, some people still fear putting out their banking or personal sort of credit card information out onto
Mhm.
websites.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
for good reason. For good reason. What
yeah,
about
yeah.
what about your account in a dating site or a matchmaking site getting
Mhm.
hacked, right?
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
something really bad or funny or embarrassing happening. Did you come across anything of that sort in your research when writing the book?
I haven't come across that has happened in terms of a dating app profile being hacked. Because honestly, I don't have too much of an idea about a dating app, but a little bit that I know, I didn't come across anything of that sort. But I have had I do know people whose other profiles or even private profiles which contains private information, including photographs, have been hacked and been misused and other such things. And it's obviously a dangerous part aspect of the whole thing. But on the other hand, I don't think there is an option right now. Like, you can't survive without it. Like, you probably, our parents were the last generation which managed to do away with it. They have their own evils, I'm sure. But as far as we are concerned, and especially the ones who are coming after that, saw computer and internet coming, so we still have a sort of distance from it. I do feel distance from the internet. I'm not always on the internet. I do use it every day. I do use it often, but I'm not always on it. Like, I don't need 100,000 apps on my phone to operate. Uh, Also because I can't. But because we saw the advent of it, I think we were able to maintain a certain amount of distance. But the people who came after that, my cousins, my younger cousins, for them it's a part of life. It's like drinking water. Internet has to be there. Like, how can the Wi-Fi be out? Like, it's like there's no power in the house. Not the case. My Wi-Fi can be out for 3 days. I would notice it probably on the third day. I'd be like, okay, I'll just take care of it. So yes, there are difficulties and there are dangers of it, but I don't think it is possible to avoid it. If you don't let yourself out, your personal into the world through the digital medium, then how else do you do that? Like,
You know,
people don't meet in bookstores anymore, I think so.
forget about meeting. I don't know who's going there, but that's a different story, right? But
Yeah, yes, that's why the book is also available on an app.
coming to the title of your book, it's very interesting. You say, "Who needs
Yeah,
Cupid?" It's a question, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah,
to the single
yeah,
person, right? But
yeah,
let's take that a little
yeah.
ahead. Why just single people? I think over the last few years, maybe a decade or so, you're seeing a steady decline in sort of commitments in relationship. People are
Yeah,
either
yeah,
commitment
yeah.
phobic, or it's there's a certain sense of casualness in relationships.
Absolutely.
So in that sort
Yeah.
of an environment, what's going to happen to modern relationships? What's been your observation there?
Uh, yes. Again, a bout of pessimism will come in there, because I can't help but look at it that way. But yes, I have always, and it's not just now. I'm one of those people who constantly thought that love is something which is slightly delusional. It doesn't really work the way we think it does, and we try to believe in it. We try to believe that we have found love, and all of us at some point or the other do. But I don't think it happens to all of us, and because it's a difficult thing, when you're trying to coexist with somebody. For it's not easy. You come with your own set of demons, and the other person is coming with their own set of demons. It's so yes, the gradual decline of commitment has happened, and I've been an observing member of the society of that phenomenon. But I don't. It's always been there. It's just out in the open more, probably right now. But uh, uh, to 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 sum it up, I think I'd still be positive about it, because what else do you look forward to otherwise? Because there's this in Annie Hall, Woody Allen's Annie Hall. There's this lovely little scene where Woody Allen is walking down the street, and he gets hold of these random strangers, and he's asking them questions about his life. And there's this old lady who's carrying groceries, and he asks her that somewhere she cooled off to me. Is it something that I did? Is it because something I did that she's leaving me? So and she very calmly says that it's never something you do. It's just how people are. Love fades. And it's a scary thought. I know it's a strange place to be in, and it's depressing as depressing gets. But but the point is, even if it fades, it's fine. If it happens, and if you realize it happened, and if you're welcoming to it, and I don't necessarily mean romantic love here. It can be anything. Like it can be my love with my pet. If you're welcoming to it, or my love with my parents or anybody. If you can understand that you can reciprocate and there is love, and even if it lasts, if it's fleeting, if it's as tragic as it may still happen, so you need to hold on to that. If it lasts, nothing like it.
Got it. So, and on a closing note, what
Yeah.
next? I mean, you've written an interesting book in an area where you, as you said, you don't have too much experience, but a lot of observations. So, are we going to see?
Yeah,
Are we going to see a
in
book
terms of
out?
the digital part, yeah.
And so, are we going to see another book out in an area where you have a little more experience as well?
uh, I don't know. I get very bored writing about the same things. So I'm right now I'm uh, write rewriting parts of a novel which has nothing to do with this, and I'm working on a few ghost stories. So as drastically different as they get.
Yeah.
But although
But
this modern love thing is pretty close to ghost stories, I think they're very similar.
clearly, I think for some of us it
Yeah,
can be great. Well,
yeah,
on that
yeah,
end,
yeah.
I'll bring this session to an end. Santan, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank
It was
you.
great fun, and I'm sure people who are
Thank
watching
you so much,
live,
Kumar. Thank you.
as well as the many more who watch the YouTube video, will find this very
Yeah,
enjoyable. Thank you so much. Take care.
yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.